Hello, welcome to the 2024 Book Grammy Awards, or the Pulitzer Prize, or the Oscar of the Grammys in my mind. Of the books I read in 2024, let's talk about my favorites and my least favorites of the year and from each genre, saving the best and the worst for last. I read in total, 43 books last year, or 42 books last year. That's like the lowest it's been in a while. I'm not proud of it, but it's something that unfortunately happened due to life stress and, well, college. Let's get into it. The first award we have today is Best Fantasy Novel. I read technically 7 fantasy books this year. I did not include one of them on the list of the runner-ups because it was a reread, and it was The Lightning Thief. So it was like, I'm not going to compare that. We have running today are Ready Player One, Powerless, The Hobbit, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and ACOTAR. First, right off the bat, I had to knock off Ready Player One because I guess technically it's not a fantasy, it's a sci-fi. But like, that's so close. Spoiler alert, that didn't win. Let me say the top runner-ups of best. I would say ACOTAR, Fourth Wing, or Iron Flame. Fourth Wing is a start of a book series about dragons and death. And Iron Flame is the second to that series. And then ACOTAR is it's like the most famous fantasy book ever, and I just got around to reading it this year. But what even is it about technically? This girl gets stolen from her house after killing a fairy, and her punishment is to be like living lavish with the fairies. Sounds stupid saying it. That being said, the best fantasy novel of the year is Fourth Wing.
Whoa!
Are you surprised? Not really, because I did really like the book, and I don't care what anyone says or hates on it because it was good and you just hate fun. One is Best Romance Book. This is the genre that I read the most of last year. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, technically 9 only romance books. There was a bunch of other like books that had romance subplots in them, but I didn't count them. I put 1 book per like genre to run. So in Best Romance, we have Divine Rivals, Betting on You, Check and Mate, Twisted Games, With Any Luck, Just for the Summer, Dead Romantics, Funny Story, and Nothing Like the Movies. And that's a lot of books, so I'm not going to explain them all. I would say the top 3 runner-ups were Check and Mate, Just for the Summer, and Funny Story. Funny Story by Emily Henry. These 2 people are in very committed married relationships, or just about to be married. Just before the wedding, their partners cheat on each other, and so then they move in with each other, and then the broke up boys have to live with each other, and then it's like a romance. So guess where it goes from there. Check and Mate is a chess romance by Ali Hazelwood, and she never does wrong. She is queen, she is great, she is like the Taylor Swift of like, I think, romance writing. And then we have Just for the Summer. This is by Abby Jimenez. It was my first Abby Jimenez book, and I thought it was really good. It was actually like one of the, I didn't really cringe that much in this one, and that's like kind of hard to do in a romance book. The premise of Just for the Summer is these 2 people think that they have this curse that whenever they date someone, they'll find their true love after they break up. And so they're like, well, if we date each other, then when we break up, we'll find our true love. And, it goes from there. The best romance book goes to
3, 2, 1.
Check and Mate. It was really good. I rated it 5 stars. It was like, it pulled on my heartstrings. I really fuck with chess literature and movies. Like, Check and Mate was really good. And also The Queen's Gambit, I fucked with so hard. It's something, I hate playing chess too, which is so funny. but there's something about chess media that just gets me. The next award we have is Best Young Adult Book. I would say young adult is probably like my favorite genre to read, even though I read the most romance. Yeah, no, it's like my favorite because it's like so innocent and like you learn great life lessons and the characters are always fleshed out. Contestants for this award are Looking for Alaska, Turtles All the Way Down, Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, Crank, and The Princess Trial. Quite a wide variety of young adult books, but majority of them were great this year. Although, there could only be one best one, and that would have to be Looking for Alaska by Dawn Green. It's a classic, and there's a TV show on it, so who could really turn down a TV show of a book? It was so good. It was so emotional. It had so much depth to the characters. I still think about the characters. I think, like, whenever I think of Manic Pixie Dream Girl, I think Alaska. And we have the last of our best genre awards is Best Mystery. I had a little bit of a mystery kick at the end of the year, and I read like a bunch of like young adult mysteries. So that's that's this award. The contestants for this one are Never Lie, The Silent Patient, Coraline, which I didn't know what genre to put Coraline in because I was like, is it young adult technically, or is it child's book technically, or is it mystery because Loki's a little creepy? Like, I didn't know, so I just put it on this one. The Naturals, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and Five Survive. As you can tell, most of these were young adult mysteries. Well, whatever. The book that was chosen for this changed my life. I read the entire series within 3 days. It was life-changing. I think about it all the time. I want to be them. So, the best mystery book of 2024 was The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. But not just The Naturals series. Like, all 4 books I read in, like, literally 3 days. I, like, did nothing but eat, sleep, and read these books because I was addicted. It was literally crack. They were, like, so fucking good. I could not recommend a book to, like, start out reading more than The Naturals. They're so fast-paced. They are incredibly entertaining. And it's such an interesting premise. Like, I've never read a book series that has, like, just randomly thought of that, like, great idea. And the plot twists in all 4 of them gets me every time. The last book plot twist, I was like, what the fuck is going on? And that's a nice spoiler review. But the best, by far, mystery series I read was The Naturals. We are now going into our worst genres of the year. Worst romance book of the year, going with the exact last contestants as the best romance book. Except the top 3 worst of the year, I would have to say Dead Romantics, Twisted Games, and Divine Rivals. I didn't like any of them, but I liked some more than others, and the worst romance book of the year is Twisted Games by, what's her name? Anna Huang? Not good. Don't read it. I read this because I got recommended it by one of my best friends. She's a huge reader. She was like, if you like this selection, you'll like this one because it's like a princess romance. No, this bitch, incest and only porn. This is a porn book. There's a difference between having smut in a book and it being a smut book. This was a smut book, and it wasn't even good smut. I can understand a smut book. This was not good smut, and it was incestual. That's not to say it wasn't wildly entertaining. Okay. I just didn't want to read it after like 200 pages. I was like, why? What am I doing with my life that I'm reading an incestual princess smut book? But anyways, Divine Rivals also sucked. I don't know why anyone liked it. It was good in the beginning, and I really liked the premise. But then they just got fucking married out of nowhere. And Katie, if you're watching, I know it's because, like, shipping off to war, but I still thought it was cringy as fuck, okay? The ending was not good. And also Dead Romantics, I had a DNF because it was so bad. I got 50% through and nothing had happened. Literally nothing had happened besides she moped for 200 pages. And so I stopped because it was that. Now we have worst fantasy book of 2024. Same contestants as best fantasy, except I liked most of these books, except for two. Those two are Powerless and The Hobbit. Those are both very controversial takes, and I understand if you're watching and you need to breathe for a second. I get it, but my opinions are okay. I did not like Powerless because it was unforgettable. Like, I literally don't remember anything about Powerless, low-key. I remember she had silver hair, or was that Fourth Wing? She had a fuck-ass name, too. Okay, like, genuinely so forgettable, but I do think I might reread this because I did meet the author. I went to her book signing for the second book in the series, and I, like, feel like shit that I didn't like it, but I also had to read this book really fast in order to, like, have read it for the book signing, so I think that might have been it. So, don't hate there. Then I didn't like The Hobbit because it seemed overhyped. I was like, this is it? Like, that's The Hobbit? This is the thing that everyone is obsessed with? So the worst fantasy book of the year was The Hobbit. I'm sorry. Next one is worst young adult book. Same contestants as last time again, but the winner of the worst romance book is Crank. Crank is by Ellen Hopkins, and I used to, in middle school, be obsessed with the writing style of writing books, but in poetry format. What's her name? I forget her name. She wrote What My Girlfriend Doesn't Know and What My Boyfriend Doesn't Know. Those were my favorite books in middle school, by far. Like, that's what really got me into reading much. And I loved that format, so I was like, maybe I'll like this one, but I just didn't. I also listened to the audiobook, and I think the audiobook narrator's voice was horrendous. It was absolutely the worst audiobook voice I've ever had to listen to in a book. I don't mean to be mean, but it was the worst. And then it made me hate the book, and then I was like, I have to finish it because I need my reading goal, and I already spent so much time on it. So I stayed listening to this book that was like so annoying. The worst thriller book I read. And this one, okay, it wasn't a horrible book, don't get me wrong. It was a fine book, and I did like it. It was entertaining. But the worst thriller book was Never Lie by, what the fuck is her name? I have to, like, pee now, and I'm, like, shaking in my pants. Oh, okay, Never Lie by Frida McFadden. The book was fine, and I got it as a gift, and my aunt really liked it, so I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. And it was very entertaining. I think that the writing was a little bit low quality, and it was like it wasn't edited. I think she was just writing. I know Frida McFadden books. She writes like 800 a year, and I think that's the vibe it gave. That's not to say I didn't like it. It was a fine book. All right. The time has come for the best and the worst books of the year. The award you've all been waiting for. This is the album of the year of the Grammys, okay? This is important stuff here. We're gonna start off with the worst book of the year. And I'm guessing you've never heard of this book, and that's because it's so underground. And I didn't realize until after I was already like 75% through this book that it was independently published. And that is not to say that self-publishing books isn't a totally credible way to do it, because I self-published a book. This is just to say that the editing process in self-published books is less demanding than traditionally published. That's what I'll say before I tell you. So, drum roll. The worst book of the year, the worst book of 2024 is The Princess Trials. I saw on TikTok someone say that it was a mix of The Hunger Games and The Selection, and I trusted it because I was like, that sounds so good. It's been on my TBR forever. It's been on my TBR forever, and I finally bought the audiobook, and I, like, listened and read at the same time, like dual reading. This book was the fucking craziest thing ever. I spent my hard-earned money on this book for what? I want to do a whole video on this because there's so much shit that goes on. There's almost exact scenes and words that are copied from the selection, except like more adultish, but it's still a YA book. It was just not. I will do a full video on this if you guys want it, or a full review at least on like a reel or something. Don't read this book, or you do if you are looking for a book to make fun of, because I made fun of the shit out of this book. All right, that leaves the best book of 2024. This was the hardest award to choose because I read a lot of 5 stars this year. Sorry, I have to really pee, and it just hit me that I'm like, okay, I need to finish recording before I go piss myself. All right. The best book of 2024 is a tie. There's 2 best books of 2024 because I couldn't choose. And they are Ready Player One and The Silent Patient. Silent Patient, I only started reading because the character's first name is Alicia and my first name is Alicia. So obviously I had to read. But then it ended up being so fucking mind-blowing. I did not guess the twist. When the twist happened, I didn't understand it because I was like, that can't be it. I had to reread it because I was like, there's no way. So good. That book is so good. The premise of The Silent Patient is that there is this case about this girl killing her husband. They were like the it couple. They were great. They had no problems. She killed her husband, and then she wouldn't talk for, I forget, it was like 5-10 years or something like that. And the psychiatrist was like, I will break her. I will get her to talk. And it's all about the silent patient and how he gets her to break, or if he gets her to break. And Ready Player One is like this video game society. I don't even know how to explain it. It was so good. Like, I remember being like speechless afterward. And the movie is completely different. Like, if you've seen the movie and you're like, oh, I like the movie, it's not the same. Steven Spielberg, I don't know what he did, but he did injustice. Read Ready Player One and read The Silent Patient. That concludes my best and worst books of 2024 awards. Thank you for watching the Grammys. I hope I've been the best host as possible, and I hope next year I pee before filming. But life happens. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on the books that I read and if you have any differing opinions.